There's a part of you, a secret part, that's quietly sabotaging your life. It's the real reason your relationships keep failing, why you feel completely stuck, repeating the same mistakes over and over. This unseen force is called your shadow. And in the next few minutes, we're going to show you how ignoring it is dimming your light and what you can do to finally break free. Do you ever feel like you're your own worst enemy? Like you're driving through life with one foot on the gas and one on the brake? You set goals, you make promises, you tell yourself, this time will be different. You'll finally find that healthy relationship. You'll finish the project. You'll stop procrastinating. But then, almost like you're on autopilot, you find yourself making the same old choices, falling into the same old patterns, and landing in the exact same place you swore you'd never visit again. It's beyond frustrating. You might end a toxic relationship only to find yourself drawn to the exact same type of person a few months later. You get a huge opportunity at work, but you procrastinate and miss deadlines until it just slips through your fingers. It feels like a glitch in your programming, a cycle of self-sabotage you just can't seem to break, no matter how hard you consciously try. You might start to think it's just bad luck or fate, that you aren't meant to be happy or successful in the way you truly want. You might even start to believe there's something fundamentally wrong with you. This feeling of being stuck, of being powerless against your own worst impulses, can lead to a state of quiet desperation. It eats away at your self-esteem, creates constant anxiety, and makes you feel like you're living a fraction of the life that's possible for you. You see the light you want to step into, but some invisible force keeps yanking you back into the dark. The truth is, that force isn't out there. It's inside you, and it has a name. So what is this secret saboteur, this invisible force that seems to have its own agenda for your life? The brilliant Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung gave it a name: the shadow. To help us understand it, we've brought in a wisdom keeper. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. The shadow is essentially the dark side of our personality. It's the place in our unconscious mind where we've stuffed all the parts of ourselves that we've rejected, repressed, and disowned.
The shadow is a moral problem that challenges the whole ego personality, for no one can become conscious of the shadow without considerable moral effort. To become conscious of it involves recognizing the dark aspects of the personality as present and real.
I've heard it described with an iceberg analogy. The small tip you see above the water is your conscious ego, the personality you show the world, who you think you are. But the massive hidden bulk of that iceberg is your unconscious. The shadow is a huge part of that hidden bulk, containing everything about yourself that you decided, at some point, was unacceptable. Things like rage, selfishness, greed, envy, and raw desire. So it's everything we think of as negative.
Not entirely. And here's the critical point most people miss. The shadow isn't inherently evil. It's simply the parts of yourself you were taught to hide. Maybe as a kid, you were told that being angry was bad, so you learned to swallow your anger. Maybe you were taught that being ambitious was arrogant, so you suppressed your drive. All of those powerful, repressed traits, the anger, the ambition, the vulnerability, they didn't just vanish, they were banished to the shadow. And here's the other side of it, what some call the golden shadow. Your shadow also contains your repressed positive qualities, your hidden talents, your wild creativity, your deep strength. If you grew up being told not to show off, you might have pushed your own brilliance into the shadows. So your shadow is this complex bag of everything you've decided is bad or too much. It's the disowned you.
And because it's unconscious, you're completely blind to its influence. As Jung himself famously said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate.
Fate is the external manifestation of the internal landscape of the unconscious mind.
So what happens when we just let this massive, unseen part of us run wild in the background? The short answer is chaos. Ignoring your shadow doesn't make it go away. It just gives it more power. When these repressed energies aren't acknowledged, they fester and find ways to erupt into your life. This is the root of self-sabotage. One of the most common ways this happens is through what psychologists call projection, right?
Exactly. Projection is a defense mechanism where you unconsciously take a part of your shadow you can't accept in yourself and you see it crystal clear in other people.
Can you give us an example of what that looks like in real life?
Absolutely. Imagine a man who prides himself on being calm and rational. He has deeply repressed his own anger. He gets into a relationship with a partner who is much more expressive with her frustrations. He finds himself constantly nagging her for being too angry or too emotional. In reality, her expressing emotion is triggering his own disowned anger, which he can't face in himself. He projects it onto her, judging her for the very thing that lives inside of him. This dynamic creates constant conflict and dooms the relationship, not because of her anger, but because of his refusal to acknowledge his own. We all do this. Your shadow uses other people as a movie screen to play out its drama, wrecking your relationships in the process. Another devastating effect is direct self-sabotage. Let's say deep in your shadow, you carry a core wound that you're unworthy of love. Consciously, you want a loving partner more than anything, but your shadow, operating from that belief of unworthiness, will unconsciously steer you toward partners who are emotionally unavailable or critical. People who will prove the shadow's belief that you are in fact unlovable.
It's a heartbreaking, endless loop. And that constant inner war must be exhausting. It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. You can do it for a while, but it takes constant effort. And the second you lose focus, it shoots to the surface with explosive force.
That's a perfect analogy. Repressing all this stuff takes a huge amount of psychological energy. It often leaks out as chronic anxiety, numbness, or sudden mood swings. When you see someone have a totally disproportionate emotional reaction, like screaming road rage over a minor traffic cutoff, that's the shadow erupting. The rage isn't about the traffic, it's about years of repressed anger.
At this point, you might be feeling a little freaked out. It's unnerving to think there's this hidden part of you secretly running the show. But here's the good news. This is the turning point. You can turn the light of your own consciousness onto your shadow. The process of doing this is called shadow work, and it's the solution.
The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. This is the principal task of individuation, to become conscious of the shadow and to integrate it.
It's the practice of exploring your own unconscious, finding those repressed parts of yourself, and consciously integrating them back into your whole self. But integrating can sound a bit clinical. What does that really mean?
Let's be crystal clear about what integrating means. It does not mean you let your rage run wild. It means you acknowledge the anger inside you, understand where it comes from, and learn to channel that powerful energy in a healthy, constructive way. It's about taking the lost parts of yourself back, not so they can take over, but so you can finally be whole. The goal of shadow work is wholeness and authenticity. When you stop wasting all that energy holding the beach ball underwater, that energy is freed up. It becomes available to you as pure vitality and creativity.
So what are the benefits we see when people start doing this?
The benefits are life-changing. First, you find a profound emotional balance. By acknowledging your feelings instead of stuffing them down, You're no longer at the mercy of sudden moods. Second, your relationships dramatically improve. When you stop projecting your shadow onto everyone, you can finally see them for who they truly are. You stop having the same fight over and over because you realize the fight was usually with yourself. Third, you gain a real sense of personal power and authenticity. Integrating your shadow makes you more self-accepting and confident. You're no longer afraid of what's lurking inside, so you can show up in the world as your true, complete self.
I'd rather be whole than good.
So shadow work isn't about defeating a monster. It is a courageous journey of reclaiming yourself. It's the path to taking back all the lost pieces of your soul, so you can stop being a house divided against itself and become whole. This is deep work, and if you're recognizing yourself in this, it means you're already becoming more conscious. If you're ready to go deeper, I want you to do two things for me right now. First, hit that subscribe button. We're going to break down each of these shadow work steps in future videos, and you will not want to miss it. Then I need you to be honest in the comments. Type projection if you've ever caught yourself judging someone for a trait you might have yourself. That awareness is the first step to taking your power back. Okay, the idea of facing your shadow can sound terrifying, but starting this work is actually much gentler. It's about curiosity, not judgment. So for anyone watching who is ready to start, let's break down some practical steps. The first step is to become an honest observer of your own triggers.
That's right. The easiest way to see your shadow is to notice what really irritates or fascinates you in other people. Those strong emotional reactions are like neon signs pointing to your own disowned traits. For 1 week, start a trigger journal. Every time you feel intense annoyance, anger, or envy aimed at someone else, pause and write it down. Then, ask yourself this powerful question: how might this quality I'm judging in them also be true for me, even in a small way? If you're infuriated by a friend who seems attention-seeking, ask, is there a part of me that wants attention, but I was taught that's a bad thing? Also, list the qualities you most admire in others. These often point to your golden shadow, the good stuff you've disowned.
That observation naturally leads to step 2, which is to practice a compassionate dialogue with your shadow. Once you start identifying these parts, your first instinct might be shame, but the key is curiosity. How do we do that?
A powerful technique is inner dialogue journaling. Give a shadow trait a name. Personify your inner critic or your fear of failure. Then write out a conversation with it. Ask it questions like, what are you so afraid of? Or what do you need from me to feel safe? You might discover its harsh criticism isn't there to make you miserable, but because it's terrified that you'll be rejected if you make a mistake. By listening to its fears without judgment, you start to heal the wound.
And that brings us to step 3. Consciously challenge the old story. Your shadow was born from a story that said, don't be angry, or don't be powerful. So the final step is to rewrite that story with new actions.
Exactly. You can do this with affirmations and intentional actions. An affirmation to counter "I'm not good enough" could be, I am worthy of love and respect even when I'm not perfect. But affirmations need to be paired with action. If you've repressed your voice, challenge yourself to speak up in a low-stakes meeting. If you've disowned your creativity, sign up for a pottery class. These small actions prove to your psyche that it's now safe to be whole.
This is a lifelong journey, not a one-time fix. But with these tools, you are no longer a victim of your unconscious. You are an active participant in your own becoming. For your whole life, you may have been at war with yourself without even knowing it. You've been fighting an invisible enemy, wondering why you kept getting stuck in the same cycles of self-sabotage and feeling like you were fundamentally broken. That enemy was never an enemy at all. It was the lost, forgotten, wounded parts of you, just crying out to be seen. Your shadow is not a curse. It is a doorway. It holds the very energy, power, and vitality you've been missing. The path to your light isn't found by running from your darkness, but by having the courage to turn around and face it. As Jung taught, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious.
Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes.
By observing your triggers, talking to your hidden parts, and choosing to be whole, you begin the most important journey of your life. You stop being a fragmented person, ruled by unconscious impulses, and start becoming an integrated, authentic human being. You stop calling it fate and start calling it choice. The path isn't easy, but it is the only path to true freedom, real love, and the full expression of your most brilliant, powerful self. Embrace all of you. Your light depends on it. Your journey to wholeness starts with a single step, and that step begins right here, right now. If this resonated with you, please subscribe. We have so much more to explore together on this path. And then I want you to claim your power. Tell me one thing in the comments. What's one shadow trait? Maybe it's your quick judgment, a hidden envy, or a creative talent you've been hiding, that you will gently observe in yourself this week. Just naming it is a revolutionary act of courage. Share this with one person who needs to hear it. Let's build a community where we embrace all of ourselves together. Your brightest light is waiting on the other side of that courage. Stay lit.